Test, test, test. Test, test, test.
Well, it's a beautiful sunny autumn morning here at the World Circuit at Misano, the Circuit Marco Simoncelli. This is it. This is the final race, the 12th race at the 6th and final round of the 2025 Lamborghini Super Trofeo North America. It's cool though, air temperature just 10 degrees Celsius, track temperature exactly the same. Drivers are going to have to learn how to get heat in their tyres, and quickly. I'm joined by former Lamborghini racer Jack Bartholomew. This is going to be very different with these cool temperatures.
Yeah, it's about 5 or 10 degrees cooler than yesterday. Track temperature, I think, about 10 degrees, air temperature about 5. So the guys and girls are going to have to work really hard on the first 4 or 5 laps just to really get heat in the tyres and the brakes.
Well, cars formed on the grid in the shadow of the giant pit building. That's going to be a cool place. No wind this morning, which is good, but it's going to be super tricky. 16 turns spread across 2.6 miles, but it's the first one that's always a concern. It's a very tight right-hander followed by left and another right-hander. It's a 3-part complex, and it's only a very short dash from where the cars are sitting at the moment down to that first corner. Of course, the start will be a rolling start, but you come through the final corner, turn 16, you can see next to nothing. Suddenly you're on the straight. You look up to the lights on the gantry, and when they go from red to green, off you go. But this is the final race, and I tell you what, the atmosphere is building. Let's go down to the grid and join Dakota.
Good morning, America. A very cold grid down here and a very cold race to start the day. It's about high 40s Fahrenheit in America. I'm joined down here with Lindsay on the grid. Lindsay, starting on the 8th row of the grid. You did really well yesterday. You said there was a little bit more potential to go. Obviously, championship points are on the absolute critical here. So how are you feeling ahead of today's race?
I feel really ready. I feel great. Jem and I both struggled a bit with our qualifying and maximizing the potential on the new tires, but we had really great pace as the tires wore on later in the race. So, you know, we know what we need to do. It's really cold this morning. I think warming up the tires is where we struggled a bit yesterday, but I trust Jem to get that job done, and we know what we have to improve on. So I feel like we can win the championship today.
Oh, that's very confident. I like your confidence. So yesterday, what else did you learn that you think you could be applied to today's race? Obviously, Glenn and Graham are starting right in front of you. Are you going to be following them, or are you going to be trying to pass them?
I mean, I'm hoping that Jem passes them in her stint, because I think we really need that extra push at the beginning. Glenn is super quick. He's a really strong driver. So I got to make sure, you know, we have a bit of a gap. Hopefully, when my stint comes around, he has a lot of pace. But I think we know what we need to do. Again, our race pace has always been much stronger than our quality pace, so we know how to make some passes. It is quite difficult to pass around this track as well, but you know, you just got to set it up, and track limits, hopefully, you know, there's a lot of people going over track limits, so got to make sure not to do that. And I think overall our strategy is just be consistent as we always are, and just push the maximum, because it's our last chance today. So
thank you very much, Lindsay. We wish you all the best of luck. That was Lindsay Brewer in the 102.
Thank you very much, Dakota, sharing with Jem Hepworth. And it's been a really impressive first season out of single-seaters for Lindsay. The car immediately ahead of them is the championship leader in the AM class. That's Graham Doyle kicking off before handing to Glenn McGee. But top 3 places in that AM class, covered by just 16 points. There are 15 points for victory, 12 for second, 10 for third. We'll let you do the maths, as we might even help you during the course of the race. But that is tight. But it is all focused. But if you can pinch a place at the start, it really reaps dividends, because this is a fast-flowing circuit, but it has slow sections as well. It's very, very hard to find a passing point.
Yeah, well, we saw that yesterday, didn't we, at the start of the 2 races I covered with you, Bruce, that the people that made up places on the first couple of corners generally held on to that for the whole race. It's really difficult to pass here. There's a lot of technical, the first sector's sort of quite technical, corners leading into more corners. You really have to force your opponents to make a mistake by sitting big in the mirrors. So if you can pick up a place or 2 at the start, game on.
Gold dust indeed. So let's go and join Glenn McGee. He'll be taking the second stint in the car in front of Lindsay Brewer's.
Glenn, a super fantastic day for you, and obviously a great qualifying that puts you in a good place on the grid today. So, championship. Lindsay's feeling pretty confident behind you. She is, but she did say that she needed quite a big gap to be able to not let you pass her in the second stint. So
but
how do you feel about
that? Down then, is that what she's saying?
Basically, she said she's going to run it down. So we saw yesterday tires were super important to save those tires for your stint. Have you communicated that to Graham?
Oh, no, actually. Well, I did, but I said run it as hard as you can when you need to, and don't worry about the tires for me, and I'll take care of it. So I'm usually pretty good on tires, so I think I can run decent pace, and hopefully leaves me a little bit, but I do know at the end of the race it'll be important, so I think I can manage it in my stint to keep it underneath me.
So the other important thing that we saw yesterday was track limit abuse, and that cost a lot of drivers a lot of penalties. How are you going to manage that track limits, especially when everyone else is starting to abuse them?
Yeah, it's harder in the U.S. rounds because we don't get a reset. So you literally only have 3 that you can take. I don't think I got any yesterday, and I felt comfortable with it. I wasn't aware of what everybody else was getting. I assumed they were getting a lot. I actually want Graham to put pressure on Staub in this race and make him have a couple track limits. So that's part of the strategy, I think, is Graham putting pressure on him to get track limits.
We're going to go put a little bit of pressure on him too. Thank you very much. That's Glenn McGee, guys, with Graham Doyle.
Thank you. And indeed, this is part 2 of the 3-part AM class battle, and it's worth pointing out we've got the 4 classes in the Lamborghini Super Trofeo. It's easy to focus on the overall race, but you've got the Pro. That title was settled yesterday. A 7th win this season for Danny Formal and Hampus Eriksson. There's their car. They're starting 3rd today, so maybe they're going to give someone else a chance to win. Cars on the front row are Nick Persing on pole position, teammate to Hampus Eriksson, who's starting right behind him, and Enzo Garacci, French racer, sharing with Colin Queen, desperate to get a first win. But let's go down to the 3rd component in the AM class battle. With Dakota, it's David Staub.
In a very, very luminous yellow car, I am down here on the grid with David Staub. David, your competitors behind you are feeling the pressure, I can tell you that. They're looking at your bright yellow car thinking, that's the target today. Championship is really, really close. How are you feeling sitting in the car?
Yeah, I'm excited. It's not every day you wake up and get a chance to win the Lamborghini championship. The last time was 3 years ago in Portugal, and the car blew up on the warm-up to start the race, and we never got the chance. So today's the day that we finally get to have that chance and go see what we can do.
What did you learn from yesterday that you think could be applied today? Obviously, it's a little bit colder today. I said in the high 40s. So you've never had a race this cold before. Are 2 formation laps enough, and you're going to be using that to optimal your tire pressures and conditions?
Yeah, for our setup, 2 formation laps are exactly perfect for the car, for the setup we've got in the car. So the car's going to go out there, it's going to fire off perfectly, and we're just going to work to get the lead right away, extend from there.
And that was David Staub feeling very confident in his 148 bright, bright, bright yellow Lamborghini.
Thank you very much indeed. Almost couldn't see you against that, Dakota. It was so bright. But worth pointing out, we talked to the 3 crews that are fighting for the AM title, but none of them are on the class pole because we've got an outlier, Matteo Seidemann, who the last 3 races, yesterday's and the 2 races at the previous round, he scooped up the points, so he ought to be taking the 15 points today, and that, in many ways, will actually help Glenn McGee and Graham Doyle, because it means there are fewer points potentially for their rivals to grab to try and overreach them. At the front end of the grid, Nick Persing, Enzo Garacci on the front row. And actually, if you're watching in from the States, you might wonder, why have we got our final round in Italy? Well, it's a tradition with the Lamborghini Super Trofeo. The final round is held wherever the world finals are going to be held. And this time, last year it was Jerez de la Frontera in Spain. This year, it's Misano Adriatico. So Thursday, Friday racing, a little unusual, but that leaves Saturday and Sunday when all 3 championships, the North American, the Asian, and the European Super Trofeos, get put together and fight it out for the ultimate crown. It really is hugely exciting. So maybe, Jack, as the 1-minute board goes up before the first of 2 formation laps, there's a little element in the minds of some of the drivers. Got to keep my car in some sort of condition, because to come here and not to get to start the World Finals because you've taken to the barriers in your car would not be a good thing.
Yeah, certainly the guys from America and the US are going to be, maybe that 5% in the back of your brain just preserving things, because you've come a long way, halfway across the world. It's a massive week, loads of track time, great opportunity to develop and learn and get loads of racing. So you want to be there to fight in the World Finals as well as your regional championship.
Yeah, and also a lot of drivers who maybe started the season slowly and saw their championship hopes disappear. They may be hitting a rich seam of form. You know, Viz just talking about Matteo Seidemann for TR3 Racing, who's leading the AM class on this grid. He might go, hey, my form's coming to me. I've won the class the last 3 races, and maybe when I get to the World Finals, I'll be in the mix for AM for that. So it's something else to aim for. With the 12-race championship, you have a couple of non-scores, and it really hurts. But, well, off goes the car from pole position, the dark one from Wayne Taylor Racing. It seems the car second on the grid. Well, it took a while to get going, so a little bit of concern there for Enzo Garacci and TR3 Racing, but very kindly, the driver starting 3rd on the grid, which is Hampus Eriksson, sort of hung back and let him get going. don't want anyone to just fluff. And before one of the races yesterday, we had a car go out with a broken drive shaft. One of the front runners, that was in the Asian series, Jonathan Chikoto. And let's hope nobody has any other mishaps on this one. But right now, every driver on this track is going, it's quite cool in the cockpit, but I tell you what, it's much colder in the tyre department. So 2 formation laps ahead of a 50-minute race with a mandatory pit stop somewhere around the middle point. What you tend to get with a Pro-Am setup, particularly, is the AM will do the shorter session, and they will get the longer chunk of the race to their pro, unless they just feel they're enjoying themselves so much they want to stay out. But 2 words mentioned, I think it was, yes, it was with the interview with Lindsay Brewer, track limits. Yesterday we saw a considerable number of excesses. You get a handful, and then you're allowed to, then you start getting penalties. Right, on pole position, Nick Persing, car number 108, Wayne Taylor Racing. Enzo Garacci, French racer for Ansa Motorsports, starts alongside him. Hampus Eriksson, already a champion after yesterday's race victory, and he very keen to add another. Al Moret was really flying at the end of the race. Look out for him. He's starting 4th. Elias de la Tour, a couple of wins in his bag for TR3 Racing. He wants more. Darius Trinka, Lithuanian racer, top in the Pro-Am class, ahead of Mark Miller, who went really well in qualifying, and Luke Barkley. That's going to be very, very tight in the Pro-Am class battle towards the front of the field. Now, completing the top 10 on row number 5 of the grid, it's Matteo Seidemann, the driver who's the form driver in the AM Championship at the moment, too far behind on points to trouble the others, though. And Conrad Guy sharing with Jason Hart, very handy driver pairing. Antoine Como, the Canadian racer for Ansa Motorsport, starts 11, and David Stubb, he's 2nd in the AM title race at the moment at 3 points down, so he's right in the mix. Then Graham Doyle leading the AM Championship. Brandon Godovich, who I think took the record yesterday for the most track limit excesses, but with his experience, you can be sure he'll be dialing it back today. Jem Hepworth, she will be starting 3rd in the AM class, in with a tilt at the title. And Dean Noyles, another Canadian racer to make the journey across the Atlantic, he will start in 16th place. Going on to row number 9, Rocky Bolduc. He won his class yesterday, the Lamborghini Cup class, ahead of Ray Sheehy, who had a bit of a shaky race yesterday, looking for more today. Garrett Adams, another driver racing solo, and John Hirschberg, they form up on row number 10. And right at the back, Gabriel Holguin, driver from Colombia, all on his own because, unfortunately, the Flying Lizard Motorsport entry of Andy Lee and Slade Stewart, that went off a couple of times with brake issues yesterday, is not out to play. But in many ways, maybe they're just saving it for the World Finals tomorrow.
Yeah, they've probably just got a lot to work through on the car, make sure it's all running as it should, ready for the World Finals. So if there's not anything for them to gain or lose today, probably a sensible thing.
Yeah, much as racers want to be racing every time they can, there is a huge amount of track time here with practice and qualifying on the Wednesday, Thursday, Friday racing, Saturday, Sunday World Finals racing. So the drivers loving having all this track time.
I think we actually heard one of the American drivers yesterday mention that in the US they get very limited track time running alongside IMSA and IndyCar. You know, it's a premium weekend to be part of, which is fantastic for sponsors. As a driver, you want to maximise track time. So coming here for the week and being able to get so much running in a week is fantastic.
You almost need this meeting at the start of the year, don't you?
Exactly, yeah.
Get you ready for the season.
Get your eye in, ready for the season.
Right. Race control, ready to get the finger on the starting button, and may I just emphasise the final corner of the lap, it's a 90-degree left-hander, and by the time the first 5 or 6 rows have come round the corner, they're getting very close to the start line. 11 rows on this grid, or 10.5, because we've got 21 cars. The last few are going to have to be absolutely on the money when they come out of the final corner. It's a rolling start, they don't want to jump it. At least they've already had one practice. That was yesterday. This is their 2nd race here. It's always a feature at the circuit at Misano. So there's the focus in the eyes of Jem Hepworth in that AM class battle racing for the Rafa Racing team. And they've got 1 class victory this year. They'd very much like another. It's really their only hope. I think they effectively have to take victory in the AM class to bag the 15 points that may just put them into that title battle. They're 6 points down on the leading combo of Graham Doyle and Glenn McGee. Right. Bottom end of the circuit, giant grandstands, and this is a circuit named after Marco Simoncelli. So when the motorbikes race here, it is absolutely packed. And if one of the riders used to be Valentino Rossi, you would fill all those grandstands that go all the way around from turn 11 around to the inside of turn 16. So the Lamborghini Urus, what a glamorous pace car to have at the front of the field. Where are the cars, he's asking? Anywhere soon? Coming around the final corner, get your finger on the button. So here we go, 50 minutes of racing. This is the 12th and final race of the 2025 Lamborghini Super Trofeo North America. The car in third on the grid. They've already got the overall title in the bag, but they are desperate to try and prove they can win yet another one. All the lights on the starting gantry are red, and when that thumb goes down, wait for it, you never know when it's going to go, and quite a long hold, and now it's green. Looks like a good start from pole position there. Nick Persing, the driver from the outside the front row of the grid. Enzo Garacci tucks in behind, but look what a short dash it is to the first corner. Then on the brakes, about a 70-degree right hand. A lot of drivers, when it gets busy, end up going across, cutting the track, cutting out turn 2. Today it's actually people going wide further down in the pack. Actually, pretty neat and tidy, I'd say. 21 cars into turn 1, 21 cars out of turn 3. 4 and 5, well, we just saw there a few cars getting a little bit close to their rivals and having to back it off into 4 with consequences, but only in terms of losing momentum. But Nick Persing on pole position, had a good race yesterday until it all went wrong. A couple of penalties. He's ended up way down the order, finishing in 17th. That's not the sort of place you find him. He's already had a couple of wins early in the season at Laguna Seca in round 2, but neat and tidy into turn 8 they go. Once, Jack, you've got through that section of the circuit, then it starts to open out, and actually right now it's more line astern than side by side.
Yeah, it seems like it's spread out quite quickly, so now everyone can start settling into their rhythm. It's probably still going to be another lap or two for the tyres to really come into the optimal window. They're probably all running slightly higher pressures than they normally would in the US to help get the car in the working window. You actually saw Enzo Garacci into turn 8 still weaving, trying to generate some heat. Clearly Nick Persing's got his car dialed in and he's off up the road.
No, he really is. He ended up just way down the order. Just want to say at this very early point in the race, to point out in the Pro-Am battle, that is Nick Persing wide and a little bit wider still. That battle is still separated by just 5 points. The Lithuanian crew of Tadas Karlinkas and Darius Trinka qualified best in class. They're 5 points clear of Conrad Geiss and Jason Hart, so that's still a battle that can be sorted out. Up front, though, that was an excellent opening lap from Nick Persing, 1.5 seconds clear of the competition. Enzo Garacci held on to that second place. Hampus Eriksson, there he is with the blue flashes on his Wayne Taylor Racing car, sister car to the car that's leading the race, comfortably in second place. Eriksson, Al Moray, Darius Trinka is the driver leading the Pro-Am class in car 111. That's 5th overall. And that's he's just ahead of Luke Barkley there. And just going down to the AM class, Jem Hepworth did get a good start. She jumped ahead of Graham Doyle, so she's the second in class behind Matthias Seidemann. And David Starb went somewhat backwards, so that was a real sort out. So we heard from Lindsay Brewer on the grid. She was saying, hope Jem could make a start. She's made a sensational one.
Yeah, so clearly Jem's done exactly what was asked of her. They probably discussed that in their team briefing last night and this morning. You know, trying to get that buffer for when Glenn McGee gets in the car. We know he's really fast. And yeah, David Starb had a bit of a rough start. So we'll see how he recovers, see if he can get his head down and stay with them. It seems like they're all together, so, you know, really one move or one mistake could change the whole title fight.
Well, fantastic battle here. This is the 5th place. Darius Trinka leading the Pro-Am class. There it is with a big XO on his bonnet, but 128. Luke Barkley doesn't fancy staying behind any longer. That's a Pro-Am car ahead of a Pro car. Oh, trying to go around the outside, but actually at this point you can just see they haven't got the heat yet in their tyres. Luke Barkley had to back it off, otherwise you're just going to go understeering off. But by the time they got out of turn 14 up to 15, he'd moved ahead, but that was through diligence. So the next person behind is Mark Miller. Now suddenly the Pro-Am battle is nose to tail. There we are, 111 leads it. Number 141 is behind Mark Miller, and Conrad Geiss in that championship battle is 3rd in class. What he doesn't really want is Mark Miller between, because really the championship battle is between Geiss and Karlinskas. But the person who's got the big problem, a drive-through penalty for number...
Class leader in the AM class.
Oh, well, there we go. So suddenly that means Jem Hepworth is in the class lead. How things can change. Another person in problem on the opening lap of the race, Elias de la Tour, fell to the back of the order, and he's someone who started 5th on the grid. So that was he was the one that lost out the most, but that's been superseded by the loss there, the drive-through penalty, dearie me, for Matthias Seidemann.
Obviously that's not going to affect his championship because he was a bit behind on points, but a shame for him to not be able to keep up that winning streak. But that does make the fight for the AM title overall really exciting, because now there's no one taking points away. You know, the top 3 in the AM class are in the top 3 positions, so let's see how that plays out. Could get really exciting.
Well, it could. Let's just do some simple maths for you. Not that simple perhaps this time in the morning. It's 15 points for a win, 12 for second, 10 for third. So at the moment, once Matthias Seidemann has to come and serve his drive-through penalty, Jem Hepworth and Lindsay Brewer could be picking up 15 points. They start today 6 points down, and importantly for Graham Doyle, he's only going to score 3 points fewer if they finish as they are. That means he would still be champion with Glenn McGee. But ifs and buts and maybes. He's got more than 40 minutes remaining in the race, but we'll just sort of lay the foundations for that title battle. Up front, though, Enzo Garacci has no answers at the moment. Nick Persing, clearly, as you said, has got his car set up beautifully by Wayne Taylor Racing, because he's rocketing clear. 1 minute 35.3 last time around, nearly 4/10 of a second, nearly 5/10 of a second ahead of Enzo Garacci, so he's 3.2 seconds clear. But behind, Hampus Eriksson is now, with heat in his tyres, looking where can he make the moment. We're riding on board with him at the moment, with the Swede who was so delighted to win that title yesterday. And as you said, to end your season with the title is great, but to do it with the win, to clinch the title with the win, that's just, it's the icing on the cake.
Yeah, certainly. No one wants to finish a super successful campaign with a rubbish result. You want to finish a winning campaign with a winning result. Nick Persing just got a track limit warning for turn 8, so he needs to be careful. He's got a nice lead, so just settle into the rhythm. No mistakes, like I said yesterday. If you drive at sort of 80–90%, managing the lead, looking after your tyres, but nothing silly. There's no need to get a penalty, especially after yesterday. He would love to finish the season with a win.
Yeah, wouldn't he just? Yesterday was a day he'd like to forget. The pace was there. He was running right at the sharp end of the field, but then with penalties down the order, he fell. But right now, I'm starting to sense... Oh, no, still drivers struggling. The car in third there, car number 101 with new champion Hampus Eriksson, still a little bit loose down the bottom end of the circuit. When I say the bottom end, it's the sweeps. Turn 12, 13, and then a tight hairpin at turn 14. But it's about keeping your tyres sweet. It's a 50-minute race. In these temperatures, it's not such an issue. The main issue is the front end of the race rather than the back end of the race, is just to get the heat into the rubber. Nick Persing just waiting to see his next lap time. Actually, Enzo Garacci took a tiny fraction of a second. There is Garacci, car number 104 from Answer Motorsport, pressing on very nicely indeed. He actually went slightly faster than race leader Nick Persing, but maybe right now they've got a degree or two of temperature in those tyres and they can settle down. Garacci also races in the European Series, so he gets a load of track time here this weekend. He was a little bit frustrated in the European round yesterday, but right now he's got to focus on getting a top result in this race. And don't forget, yesterday he did have various problems. He got spun around in one of the races.
Yeah, certainly that extra track time is just only going to make him, you know, even sharper. He's going to know exactly where the track is, how the tyres react in the cooler temperatures. Hampus Eriksson looking pretty settled now. He's not right up the exhaust, so he's hopefully not wearing out his front tyres, but, you know, he'll know that when Danny Formal gets in the car, he's going to be absolutely rapid, so he's probably been told, get through the first corner, settle into a rhythm, and, you know, let's see what we can do in the second stint if we can't get past.
Yeah, I mean, it's so much about having a good start, not blowing it, but then just being consistent and having a great driving period. Let's take a look at the start of the race. It's a very, very long hold. Pole position is on the right-hand side of the track. Already on the rush down to the first corner, Nick Persing got a good car length clear, no trouble for him, and Hampus Eriksson right under his rear wing actually ended up dropping back a little bit because they were trying to anticipate the start. But if you're third, you don't want to hit the back of the car in front, particularly if it's a teammate. Now this is a view riding on board with Jem Hepworth, David Starr. She got past him there. Oh, there was a spinner. Okay.
Elias de la Tour.
Yeah, Elias de la Tour facing backwards. Everyone else then backed off. We didn't see that at the time. Let's have a look. Elias de la Tour, he got very close to the tail. There he is in the yellow and black hard car. Already on the way in. Al Murray was alongside. Don't know if they touched, but it might have had to be evasive action. But it was all because Elias got too close to the back of Hampus Eriksson, who in turn had to back off a little bit. And there, Al Murray also having a rotation as well. So, busy. So for Al Murray, that is not a good thing. He was running in fourth position. He's just as we came out of the replay looking at his car. We were looking at it again, and it was rotating. So he's fallen back from fourth. That means Darius Trinker should be going past. Luke Barkley's already gone past. Well, yesterday, Al Murray was absolutely fired up by having a really, really strong end to his race, ending up third, sharing with Keon Tandon. Today, of course, the driver who started yesterday does the second part of this race. But right now, it's about keeping a cool head after you've had a spin. And what we're seeing at the front of the race is pure control from this man, from Nick Persing. He's obviously worked out which corners you can exceed the track limits. Already, though, we're getting a whole host of them coming on our screen. I'm trying to think who's saying that. It was Glenn McGee saying, of course, we don't get a reset in the States. So in this race, you do get a reset and then hand over to the next driver.
The other thing is, though, in the States, most of the tracks, if you're doing track limits, you're probably going to be in the wall. So it's quite surprising seeing these guys come here and then they're kind of using all the track. It's quite surprising because you'd think it's kind of they're tuned in America where there is no option to use all the track. But I guess that's exactly it. You come to a track where you can, and they're just, you know, same in America, you drive to the edge of the track. Here, the edge of the track is over the curb and using some of the runoff apron. Yeah, it is, and I guess you race at all points around the world and you discover different interpretations of the rules. It's much the same when I used to play rugby. Went to New Zealand, worked out you could stamp on people's heads. It's all fine. I've recovered now. Right, well, let's go down to the pit lane because Dakota, whose voice is coming back to her, has grabbed us an interview.
Thank you very much. Yes, I'm with Colin Queen. Colin, Enzo's running really well right now in P2 overall. He's about 3.5 seconds the last time I looked at the screen behind Nick. Now, Nick, being a solo driver, has to spend 3 extra seconds in the pit lane. So is it really worth pushing Enzo and pushing those tires, or are your orders kind of like, stand back, Enzo, let's save the tires and catch him in the pit lane?
Yeah, you know, that's the good thing about the first stint is, you know, if you're in a position like this, especially with Nick Persing having that 3-second penalty, if he could just conserve just a little bit in his stint and get the car over to me in a good position and in a good condition, I think for me to push at the end, hopefully Persing could kill his tires just a little bit. That's what we're hoping for at this stage. Yeah, I think we're definitely in a contention for a win today. So, you know, just got to keep up the pace that he's at right now, and I got to do my job. But, you know, Anson Motorsports has put together an incredible car this weekend, all weekend long. So, you know, I know that we have the package to get it done.
There you go. Good luck. That's good spirit. Thank you very much, Colin. That was Colin Queen.
Yeah, so Colin, with a view to taking their first win, as a combination, they've been super consistent. A host of third, fourth, fifth places, particularly fifth places. If they could end on the podium, that'd be great. If they could bag a win, that would just give so much wind, put it into their sails. And right now, Enzo Garacci in the car he's sharing with Colin Queen. Here it is, car number 104. Just got a bit of clear air between himself and the chasing Hampus Eriksson. But Hampus, again, we talked about this. He's already wrapped up the championship. He's realised he didn't make a move at the start. In fact, he was hampered, as we saw, on the getaway from the line. But he's got the total faith in Danny Formal. As a combination, they're super strong. But right now, Hampus just isn't quite close enough to Enzo Garacci. They're 3.6, 3.7 seconds down. Let's talk through the classes. Darius Trinka leading the Pro-Am class. He's 5th place overall after the drive-through penalty. Moved him up the order, but he's only just a second clear of Mark Miller.
Yeah, certainly close on track in the Pro-Ams. As we've said already, though, it's really hard to pass here, so track position is absolutely crucial.
And another issue, we mentioned it earlier, I'll mention it again now, just for the sake of it. Track limits. Mark Miller, in that Pro-Am battle, has already got the final warning. So he's got to, that's it. He's got to behave now up until the point he hands over to Paul Nemshoff. A lot of pressure. He's got Al Murray fighting back. After that spin, down to 7th place overall for car 177. But Al, you know, showed great speed yesterday for 47 Motorsport. But he knows he's got a quick teammate in Keon Tandon, so getting very busy indeed. There's Lindsay Brewer just trying to compose herself because her time will come very soon indeed. It's a 50-minute race, but you get to just before the halfway point, and then the pit window will be open. But right now, you'd have to say Jem Hepworth is doing a good job. She's leading the AM class, which is exactly where she needs to be. And she's also got someone in behind who may help. It's Elias de la Tour. He had that spin at the first corner. He'll be fighting his way back. She's in 9th, he's in 10th. But in terms of pace, well, he's some way back off her, but he will come past at some point in the stint. Meanwhile, David Starb, just cars to the left, cars to the right. Dean Noyles, car number 170, challenging and getting his nose in front. So David Starb's not had the best start to this race, hanging in there. But these are the points where you can just damage your car and you know, pick up a puncture, and then, you know, it's game over.
Yeah, you've got to be so careful. It doesn't take much, just a bit of a rub with the, you know, the front end plate on the sort of, not the front wing, this kind of splitter, and that against a sidewall could be enough to get a puncture. It's not so bad here. The curbs are quite flat, but even dropping on and off the curbs, you can damage the sidewall of the tyre. So you just got to be really mindful of all these things.
Absolutely so, and Glenn McGee is looking at every detail he can because his teammate is second in the AM class, which would be enough to take the title. but they really want to get off after Jem Hepworth, or more to the point, Lindsay Brewer, when she takes over car 102. So we know that Graham Doyle has a huge amount of faith in Glenn McGee, and he may have to prove his worth. The driver who is proving his worth, he had a couple of wins at Laguna Seca, nothing since then, was right on the pace yesterday. It's the driver who's leading, it's Nick Persing. He's now 3 seconds clear. It went out to more than that. It's coming down little by little, but he's been clean, he's been tidy. But as we mentioned, he's got 3 seconds extra in the pit stop, and as it stands, that will be making him absolutely even with Enzo Garacci when he hands over to Colin Queen. So the next handful of laps is up to Enzo Garacci to keep chipping away, which is what he's doing. We'll look at him now, and he's suddenly driving in a way he couldn't drive. None of them could drive in the first 2 laps. There is a little heat coming into the tyres. Track temperature has risen by about 4 degrees Fahrenheit.
Yeah, it looks like Enzo Garacci's actually making inroads back into Nick Persing's lead, which, if he can get that to under 3 seconds, it'll be much more beneficial for Colin Queen, because although he has 3 seconds more in the pit, it's very perceivable that a second driver getting in the car could lose a second or a second half, even 2 seconds on their outlap, because they're trying to feel the grip, understand where the brake pedal's at, you know, different fuel load to yesterday, all these things. Whereas the driver that's just come in and is staying in the car knows exactly what's underneath him. They'll drop some air out the tyres, and he's then ready to get back out and send it. So you really, if you can have that be as close as possible, which, look, again, he's taken 3 tenths out of him there, it's going to be much more beneficial and could make it quite a tight race.
It will, and whatever Enzo Garacci passes to his teammate Colin Queen in terms of information, you still have to feel it for yourself. It's one saying, yeah, there's not much grip in the tyres, but what does that mean?
Yeah, it's always nice when your teammate comes in and when they're helping you strap in, they tell you, oh, the car's amazing, or, yeah, you know, it's good here but bad here. It fills you with confidence if they give you good feedback, but at the same time, you've got what you've got underneath you, and you've got to just get in and drive it.
Yeah, and it's all a question of degree and interpretation. Looks like another good lap coming from Enzo Garacci. If at least he can put Colin Queen, when he takes over onto the track, ahead of Nick Persing, after Nick has the extra 3 seconds because he's a solo driver, that at least be a thing. We talked before the start, this isn't an easy circuit to do the overtaking. So if, you know, track position, primacy is absolutely everything. But then we know that the driver who's getting into the car that's third, Danny Formal, is going to be very, very fast indeed. 3 North American Super Trofeo titles in the last 4 years. Obviously, the most recent was the one clinch yesterday afternoon. But it's going to be an enthralling end to the race. And I think the top 3 are going to be hugely close all the way to the end, which is coming in just under half an hour. Hampus Eriksson riding on board with him, working hard. Again, the level of concentration. Few people concentrate as much in their offices as drivers do they?
Yeah, certainly. When I'm in the office these days, I certainly not as focused as I was in a race car.
Well, it's a good thing your office is presumably stationary. So, right, now, here we go. Thumbs up. But who's going to come out on top? Is it going to be Nick Persing taking a 3rd win for this season? Let's go down through the classes. We're getting close to the pit window opening. Darius Trinker leading the Pro-Am class in 5th place overall. Almoray still behind, but beginning to catch. Leading the AM class is Jem Hepworth, and leading, as he was yesterday, in the Lamborghini Cup class is Rocky Baldwin, Canadian racer. Quite a few Canadian racers here in Italy this weekend, but for all of them, it's getting used to this circuit, but getting used to this circuit when it's cool. When they were testing, it was much warmer. Right, the first few cars coming in as soon as the pit window opened.
Enzo Garacci taking another half a second out of Nick Persing's lead. I wonder whether Nick Persing, by starting on pole, went a bit higher on tyre pressures, and he's now starting to struggle. He may stop early, drop the tyre pressures to just give him that little bit of a buffer in the second stint.
Yeah, certainly looking at his pace at the start of the race, he seemed to put his car where he wanted in the first 2 laps, but the rest you can sense them hanging back, and some at the back of the field perhaps praying a little bit to get around the corners. Right, Jason Hart jumping in, Conrad Geis getting out. Bear in mind they are fighting in the Pro-Am class. They're 5 points down on the car that's leading the class. So it's going to be a big, big ask. But Jason Hart, huge amount of experience, and he's going to give it his absolute everything. All right, Nico Germain taking over from Antoine Comer, so French driver from a Canadian. This is their driver change. Obviously the same livery as the car that's running in 2nd place. Also
They'll be
from
looking
Amstel
for a better day today. I think
will they ever? Yes. So A lot of cars coming into the pits, but we're waiting to see what the gap's going to be. Nick Persing has come in, so has Hampus Eriksson, but Enzo Guarasci staying out for another lap. And of course, we talked maximise the track time for your driver that is the faster one in the pairing. And with no disrespect to Colin Queen, he could see that the race lead was coming down and down and down. Enzo Guarasci, if he can bang in a couple more quick laps, even one more lap, and that might just give them a lead of a second when he comes out of the pits, but importantly, a lead of anything here at Misano.
Yeah, it's one of those, even if the drivers are evenly matched or your other driver might be quicker, if your guy out there is doing a good job and he's in a rhythm, it seems silly to break if he can stay out for another couple of laps while he's putting in a good performance, leave him out there if he's got clear track.
Well, he absolutely has got clear track. He's just going between turns 8 and turn 9, and then the next car ahead of him is coming out of turn 14. That's about a third of a lap away, so he can have no excuses about not improving his time. Last time round, 1 minute 34.5. He may pit at the end of this lap, so we'll not see how fast it is, but we'll see the interval. And just remember, I said it before, I'll say it again, and the point is that by leading this race from pole position, being solo, Nick Persing was going to have a 3-second extra at his pit stop, 108 seconds versus the standard 105, and his lead was over 3 seconds, came under 3 seconds, and right now, according to the pace of this lap, we'll see how much more the French racer Enzo Guarasci has taken off him. We should see Colin Queen take the lead of the race after his pit stop. Will it be this lap? Will it not? We'll find out. Right, riding on board with Danny Formal, 3 times a champion, the most recent yesterday, coming out of the pit lane. The car in front, I would presume, would be the one that he'd been chasing in the race. It should be, yeah, Nick Persing, followed out by Wayne Taylor Racing teammate. They're still in the order they were before, but just remember, before the pit stops, there was a white and red car between them. That was Enzo Guarasci's car, and here it is now, as if on cue. Right, getting ready for Colin Queen to take over. We heard from Colin, he was talking to Kota down the pits, and they would love to end their season with a win. Their best place so far, a third earlier in the season, and right now, this would be something, if they could take a win to set themselves up for the World Finals on Saturday and Sunday here at Misano, it'd be fantastic. It's a sunny morning, but it's a cool morning. Track temperature has squeaked up another 2 or 3 degrees Fahrenheit, but it's still very cool indeed compared to a midsummer race.
Yeah, certainly. They just need to make sure they get an absolutely perfect driver change. Now, they really can't afford to give away any time in the pits, but at the same time, as we said yesterday, if you, if you undercut the pit time, a penalty just destroys your race.
Yeah, absolutely so. And just seeing that Enzo Guarasci used right up to his final track limits warning, that's the mark of a professional. Right, at the moment, in terms of who's on the track, this driver is leading the race. Car number 108, Nick Persing. Right, where will he be as this car, the white and red one from Answer Motorsports, comes out of the pit lane? At that point, as it leaves the pit lane part of the pit lane, you think, well, it's going to be Colin Queen, but it's such a long pit exit. So here we go after 3. It's going to be very tight indeed. The pit exit comes out not after before turn 1, it's after turn 3. It's on the left-hand side of the track, and will he be in front? Hampus Eriksson looks on. What's he going to see? I think he's going to see Answer Motorsport coming out into the lead of this race. Yes, he was. A flash of white and red. There it is, Colin Queen in front by, well, about 3/4 of a second, immediately coming down because he's got to get confidence, and running a little bit wide there, Nick Persing. He's desperate to win with another win in his bag, but there it is, and a little bit further back will be Danny Formal. But bear in mind, we've got, what, just under 25 minutes in the race. Expect the Costa Rican to start to close in. I said it was going to be a good 3-way battle. At the moment, it looks like a 2-way battle. In fact, maybe it was a slightly slow pit stop from this year's champions, because they should, in terms of, they should be in the background, and they are not as yet. See if you can see them. I can't at the second.
But this is exactly what I was saying. You can see Nick Persing's all over the back of him. Colin Queen's on his outlap. You know, he's got to get his eye in. He's trying to just feel everything that's underneath him. Nick Persing knows exactly what's underneath him, but Colin Queen has track position, which is absolutely crucial around Misano.
Absolutely so, and the long shot looking back from turn 11 up to turn 10, the hairpin onto the fast section of the circuit. Danny Formal was there, but he was about 3 seconds further back. Still waiting for the last of the runners to enter the pits, because at the moment we've got a couple of Pro-Am class cars leading the race. Darius Trinker from Mark Miller, separated by 3.5 seconds. Car 111, there it is, Darius Trinker. He was sort of almost in the wars at the start of the race. He very nearly hit the back of Hampus Eriksson when they were leaving the grid. Hampus slightly delayed, had to back off because he were worried about hitting the tail of his pole-sitting teammate, Nick Persing. No damage was done, but it was sort of ifs and buts and maybes, but for the Lithuanian crew, they got away with it so far.
Still waiting for Jem Hepworth to stop in AM, so she's actually sitting third overall at the moment. It looks like all the other AM cars have stopped. We'll see where they filter out after the pit stops.
Yeah, obviously decided it was such a good start from Jem Hepworth, gained at least 2 places going down to the first corner, and through the first corner we saw David Starb going off to her side, and she went round, and just really the last few cars in the pits. That's John Hirschberg, who moved up to the Lamborghini Cup class by dint of staying out longer, but expect Rocky Baldwin to be back in the lead of that. The long hold, you have to wait, 105 seconds minimum time, but for him, he's driving solo, so it's 108, but up front, the important thing is Nick Persing has not managed to get the jump on Colin Queen. I sense in the background Danny Famala's already taken a little bit of time out, so look at the car with the blue flashes, the second of those 2 Wayne Taylor Racing cars to close in, and here is Jem Hepworth out, Lindsay Brewer just seemingly a little slow to get in the seat. Maybe a belt or something had just fallen out of position, but there is time built into these pit stops. It's a safety element, and also fewer mechanics, are needed to work on the car accordingly. Up front, though, right, I'm going to say 2 words at this point: track limits. We're just going to watch those, because this could be something that could sort out the race. And certainly who goes where. Certainly Nick Persing is not shy at running as wide as he possibly can. What you have to do is always have even the sidewalls of one of your sets of tyres, one side of your car, within the white lines that mark the edge. So in fact, very good entry there from Darius Trinker. So he comes in. Mark Miller, I expect, will follow in. That's the Pro-Am battle. Mark's 3 and a bit seconds behind. And then for drivers, it feels as they're moving into jelly as they have to slow down. There is the bright orange car of Mark Miller, who, may I suggest, looked as though he gained a little bit coming into the pits. It looks like he didn't back it off as much, and certainly might have gained a second or so. And that's what you need to do as a driver.
Yeah, again, pit entry, absolutely crucial. So it's so difficult to find time and make time up out on track. If you can make up half a second to a second on pit entry by just nailing the brakes really late and getting it stopped right on the line, and same as when you leave the pits, dropping the pit exit limiter right at the line, you can just make up a few temps here and there, and it can make all the difference to track position, as we see.
Yeah, no, exactly so. And also the entry to the pits is just before turn 16, but it's just after you come out of 15, and it's in a really tight corner. You've got to throw it across from right of the track to left. It's certainly not settled and having a long line of sight. Right, Tadas Kalinskas is going to hop on board, taking over from Darius Trinker. Can he come out? Can they take another win? They've moved teams a couple of times this year. MLT Motorsport is their team at the end of the season. They haven't won their class for quite some while, but they are consistent scorers, and across 12 races.
Track limit penalty for Colin Queen.
Colin Queen, dearie me,
That's
5-second time penalty for John Hirschberg, but for Colin Queen, quite a few other drivers. Oh, dearie me. So there he was. He got into the golden spot, and again, that's also down, as we say, if you're Nick Persing, you know the state of your tyres, you know how hard you can push. Where that would be a couple of slip-ups from Colin, exploratory. He was exploring what grip he had in his tyres, maybe not quite as he wanted, and he ran wide, and that is a game changer. Would probably still be a top 3 finish, which will be as good as they've had all season, but when that potential victory was there, he had to defend. It was looking very good, I'd say. Just under 20 minutes to go. Right now, they're probably drawing lots. Who tells him?
Realistically, even if he's a little bit slower like it looks like he might be, he's got track position, and it is so hard. As long as he doesn't make any obvious massive mistakes, he's probably got this covered. So really, there's no worse feeling than actually winning on track and having it taken away from you. It's unfortunate that his teammate obviously did a cracking job pace-wise in the first stint, but used up all their penalties. This is the problem with split driver racing. You have to give your teammate a bit of a buffer. If you go and take all the warnings in the first stint, he's got no room for error, and he's in a high pressure situation having to defend the lead.
But you sort of look at it the other way. Enzo did everything he possibly could. Enzo Garacci to make sure that Colin came out into the lead of the race, and then it really is up to Colin to hang on. However, it's a game of such small margins. But right now, let's just say it, Colin Queen, well, there's a track limit. Nearly dropping the car. Nick Persing in his pursuit. When it came back to terra firma, the car wanted to settle. That was going through the left-hander at turn 15, and that was a moment in which a driver has to be absolutely cool and focused. One thing I do want to point out is in the background, Danny Famal is getting closer and closer and closer. He's only 1 and a bit seconds down on Nick Persing, who's half a second down, 0.6 of a second down on Colin Queen. But both of those drivers will get to know about the penalty. The 5 seconds are going to be added to the race leader, Colin Queen. And just being told, thank you very much. Well, it's not good news for fans of Garrett Adams, but unfortunately he's just retired from the race. Car number 125 Alliance Racing. Thanks very much for Dakota for that news. Right, track conditions are getting better. Everybody's settling into their second stint now, riding on board with Lindsay Brewer. And importantly for her, leading the AM class. That's all they can do in their tilts. The all-female crew of Lindsay Brewer and Jem Hepworth. Jem did such a good start of the race. To win the AM title, they have to win the race in their class. They're doing that. But importantly for them, the crew that are down, that lead the class, two positions further back. Let's ride on board. This is with Lindsay Brewer. What are we seeing, Jack?
Well, she's very tidy, hitting all the marks. You know, Misano's quite a weird track. There's so much runoff and extra track on the inside and the outside of the curbs. It's quite hard to follow if you don't actually know where you are. You know, it's almost like you're in a car park, essentially. But she's hitting all her markers, cutting in nicely, using all the curb on the inside, using all the exit on the outside. No big moments of oversteer. You know, she's just obviously trying to manage what she's got underneath her. She just needs to kind of hope that by just staying consistent, that she's going to have the pace to hang on.
Now, Lindsay's background is single-seaters this year. Do you see a different sort of set of lines from a driver who comes from a single-seater background?
Yeah, with single-seaters, you've obviously got a lot less weight, a lot more aerodynamics, so you can drive the car a lot more direct. You can really fire it into the apex and just nail the throttle. With a GT car, you really need to focus on trying to get the car straight for the exit. You don't have as much grip in the middle of the corner. Looked like she ran a little bit wide there, but she just needs to stay calm and just find that rhythm.
Yeah, chalk that up to experience of established. You can't go quite as deep into turn 14, but did get back across. This is turn 16 that we talk about. Can't see the start-finish straight. Oh, yes, I can. Here we are. And then it's such a short start-finish straight. Normally get onto start-finish straight, you can relax a little bit and then focus on the first corner, but the first corner is on you within about, what, 7 or 8 seconds?
Yeah, it does come up.
Now,
really
driver had a
quick.
problem very early in the race. Elias de la Tour and Dakota has caught up with him.
A very noisy pit lane. Elias, what happened at the start? We were all counting and rooting for you, but what happened?
Yeah, had a great start initially, got a nice jump to the green, and went into turn 1 and got spun around. I haven't really seen it too much. I'm going to look at it after, but it's just unfortunate for us, still trying to fight for P2 in the championship and trying to still stay on the podium for the last race of the season, and just an unfortunate thing.
You absolutely must have seen even a flash of color, someone who spun you around. Do you have any idea?
Not really. Just too many colors, trying to avoid cars, make sure I didn't take out another person, and trying to stay off track to make sure I don't cause any more chaos.
Right, that aside, 6 obviously in class right now. You guys got to gain a little bit more in order to get that vice championship. What do you think is possible from Will, sorry.
Yeah, we have a little bit of damage, but it's still drivable, and I think Will has so much experience that he can easily drive around it, and he's just a great driver to have, and I think he'll get some places back.
Good luck. Thank you very much.
Well, just taking a look at the car that Elias de la Tour had spun around. There it is, Will Bamber on board with that very bright Lamborghini Miami livery there, HCB sponsorship, but neat and tidy. He's got a couple of ProAm cars ahead of him. Tadas Karlinskas, who leads the class, and a 167 is also out there, and that's Jason Hart. But Will Bamber's got the pace. He's got about 8 seconds to find. But actually, I think that point that the points they will gather for 6th place in the pro class will be just enough to hold off the driver who will be potential winner of this race, Nick Persing.
It's unlikely they're going to find sort of 15, 16 seconds to 5th in class. Really, the next couple of places are just going to be for ego, really, you know, just proving a point that they're fast and they are here for the World Finals.
Yeah, exactly. So sometimes your head dips, but it's been a very good season from Bamber and de la Tour. Couple of wins they came, but the Watkins Glen round. I think if you can win at Watkins Glen, that's a real feather in your cap. Such a brilliant circuit, particularly at this time of year when it looks absolutely stunning. Right, the gap between 1st and 2nd, between Colin Queen and Nick Persing, is stabilising, but now the top 3 cars, with Danny Formal's close right up, covered by 1 second on the nose. But Colin Queen still in front. However, we've got to mention it, there's a 5-second penalty to be added to his time for exceeding track limits. I've also noticed in the AM class that Glenn McGee, who's running 3rd in class, is now being served with his final warning for track limits abuse. Was he the one who said I didn't get any yesterday? I do believe he was.
Yeah, they're clearly pushing for every last, you know, bit of time they can find. They know that they're probably, you know, on the radio to Glenn saying, look, Lindsay's leading the class. She's 10 seconds up the road. You're third in class. We really need to get that second just to secure the points. So, yeah, a lot of pressure on Glenn at the moment.
Just taking a look at the battle of 6th and 7th, which has a little more in it because it's the battle in the Pro-Am class, and Jason Hart down the inside, still saying Conrad Guys, but he's sharing with Jason, and Conrad started, so let's pretend it's Jason who's just made the move. He's moved ahead of Tadas Garlinskas in the car with a great big XO on its hood. Now, until that move was made, the car in front, which is now the car behind, follow me on this one, was 7 points clear in the championship. We can do the maths, but these are the two fighting out the championship battle in Pro-Am. There's a 5-point difference between them, so actually that doesn't really matter because the difference between victory in class and second place is only 3 points, 15 to 12. So at that point, Tadas could go, okay, you're pushing me hard, I don't want you to push me off. And actually, that's the body language there, isn't it?
Yeah, sometimes when you get to this stage of the championship, you know, you would rather win the championship than win the race. You know, you're going to be remembered for the title over a one-off result. So it's a sensible thing to do. If you haven't quite got the pace, there's no point having an incident, risking getting a penalty or damage. So, yeah, smart move by them to just sit back and just finish and get the points they need.
Yeah, and certainly Jason Hart was looking very handy, as you'd expect. Years of experience. And closed in, you know, the writing was on the wall. Now with just, you know, just over 10 minutes, just over 11 minutes remaining in the race, I think that was a good move from Tadas Garlinskas. Fight, but only up to a certain point. Right, what's happened at the start of the front end of the race? Suddenly Colin Queen was 0.4 of a second clear. He's gained a load on the last lap. He just gained over a second on the two chasing cars. He's 1.8 seconds clear. Aha. Are these the green shoots of revival, or is it desperation, or is it just the fact that he knows once the penalty's applied, he'll be down in third place? But can he, in the remaining 10 and a bit minutes, find another 3 and a bit seconds? It's going to be a huge ask, but he's setting off now in the AM class. Graham Doyle's got a chance to title. His car's only running third with Glenn McGean. It's on a final track warning. Let's find out the thoughts. Down with Dakota.
Graham, obviously your first stint, was that where you want to be? Glenn is running right now in P3. Now, the AM Championship is running really, really down to the wire here. It's going to be all the way to the end of the race. Lindsay's obviously in first in class, and there's a few in between you. I think you've got Brendan and another one in class as well to pass. So, what do you think is going to happen here?
I'm not one for foreseeing the future. I'm not going to take any guesses here. I don't want to cause any bad luck. All I can say is I'm happy where I am. The person we're really fighting who's the closest is David Staub. I mean, we've been going back and forth all season, and I was able to keep him behind, and now Glenn's in front of him. And as it runs, I think all we need is P3. If Lindsay and Jem win the race, I think we would tie on points, then it goes down to wins, so we have more of those. But yeah, it was a fun start. I mean, hectic one for sure. I was kind of right behind it all, so I got to be that like first-person view of all the craziness. But yeah, it was a fun stint. Just basically, I had to get into the mindset of this is for a championship, not a win.
Oh, now look, when we spoke to Lindsay at the beginning, she said to her teammate, I need the biggest gap in order for Glenn not to come and hunt me down at the end. So they played a slightly different strategy than maybe you guys. They've pushed the tire, and also now maybe they're going to be struggling a little bit. Are you on the same kind of strategy, or did you save some tire?
No, so actually you gave me the tip before the race started. No, maybe she didn't. Saying I needed to save tires for the end of the race. So, no, we took the TC up high, saved the tires, protected the car for Glenn. That was basically my main goal, was to hopefully pass the 48, if not get within striking distance where we would get the 3-second penalty in the pits because he's a single, and get in front of him. But I was able to pass him on the start, hold him back, and then just give Glenn a really pristine race car that he can go finish out with.
Good luck, Graham. That was Graham Doyle in the 110, the Wayne Taylor Racing.
Thanks very much, Dakota. Yeah, still sitting third in class, not able to catch Dean Noyles, and certainly not able to catch Lindsay Brewer, who's about 7-8 seconds up the track ahead of them. But they've done the points calculations. In Pro-Am, take a look at the screen. Even having taken the lead, we said it didn't matter too much. Jason Hart, there he is, coming onto the start-finish straight. He'll end the season, if he wins this race today in the Pro-Am class, 1 point shy. Oh, what it is. The ifs across the course of a season, 1 point is very, very cruel. But Tadas Garlinskas and Darius Trinka just super consistent. The ultimate pace, I mean, Jason Hart clearly a little bit quicker. He's got ahead and he's pulled 5 and a bit seconds out, but Collins just doesn't have to press. They've done the maths in their pit lane and they've worked out at MLT Motorsports. That will be enough, but we like our racing tight. We like the championships tight, and you can't ask for tighter than just 1 point margin.
Yeah, certainly shows how competitive the Lamborghini Super Trofeo series is across the whole globe. But it's good to see here. I initially thought maybe Colin Queen came across some traffic to get the gap, but it does seem like he has just found some pace. Maybe now, they might have gone lower on the pressures to just give him that car towards the end of the race. I don't know whether he's going to have the chance to pull out another 3 seconds, but, you know, never say never.
Yeah, I've been looking at the intervals. He suddenly had one really good lap, followed by another one, but then the margin, the increments have become smaller. You're talking tenths of a second, and now Nick Persing is being pushed very hard by teammate Danny Formel, and Danny might be going, well, you know, I'm an inveterate winner, I'm coming past come what may, but they don't look as though they're fighting. They look at actually they're helping each other. But the last 3 laps for Colin Queen have been very, very good indeed. But faster than the pair of them is Danny Formel. That's why the gap has come down a little bit from second to third. But I think also you have to take your hat off to Enzo Garacci. In the first points of the race, he didn't seem to have the pace, and you were I think bang on the money about tyre pressures. Maybe higher pressures than Nick Persing. He looked comfortable. He got the heat and tyres. He got away. But don't forget that Enzo Garacci races both sides of the Atlantic, and he's racing in 2 championships here this weekend. So the extra track time, a little bit of a slip up there from Nick Persing. Maybe now he's really beginning to suffer, but I don't see him falling 5 seconds behind Colin Queen.
No, the only way that would happen is if, again, for the sake of pride, he starts going a bit defensive to stop Danny Formel coming through. By holding him back, that allows Colin Queen to go up the road. It's really a shame because it looks like they are going to finish with the win that they obviously have been chasing all season. Really, they've both done a faultless job. They've just been unlucky to get one too many track limits infringements.
Yeah, I'm just having a quick look at the screen of peril, and Ernie Francis, car number 128, he's just picked up a final warning, and there will be others at these late stages in the race, most certainly. Ernie is running in 4th place overall, been sharing with Luke Barkley, but he's 20-something seconds off the back of the lead trio. Right, riding on board with Danny Formel here, hanging a little bit off the tail there of Nick Persing, and let's just see what the gap is. It will be stayed almost identical, those 3 cars. It's 2.1 seconds from Colin Queen in the lead back to Nick Persing, who's half a second clear of the driver we're riding on board with, the Costa Rican Danny Formel, 3-time North American Super Trofeo champion. Going down over the curbing, it looks very spectacular when you have a high up view off the top of the pit lane or from a drone. You know, this circuit is kept in tip-top condition. Still early morning, still very little grip.
Just looks like Nick Persing starting to struggle with his rear tyres quite a lot. You really notice at the corners he's really trying to V the corner, so he goes in, really stops it on the brakes, gets the car slowed down in the middle just to allow him to get on the power. If he tries to roll too much speed through, when he goes on the power at that slightly higher speed, he just can't get the power down. He really needs the car facing the correct way to try and get the power down.
Yeah, it's incredible the different way you use a car according to what grip you're getting out of your tyres. One good bit of good news for Colin Queen leading this race. Well, he's got the bad news. He has to find just under 3 seconds to take not victory on the track, but keep victory that he's gained on the track. But the good news for him, there isn't much traffic up ahead. I don't think they might catch one on the final lap, but here we are with just over 4 minutes remaining, so 3 more laps, one would think. Still riding on board with Danny Formel, looking forwards onto the tail of Nick Persing, his teammate. There's a high-up shot, looking fabulous down the pit lane. Colin Queen getting away, and I say this is a really, really strong race from him. Just remember, he emerged from the pits just in front of Nick Persing and then stretched away. First few laps he was harried while he was getting a feel for the car. He picked up, unfortunately, one more track limit excess, and that led to a 5-second penalty.
You know, not to cause any issues for the Wayne Taylor Racing team, but from riding on board with them and seeing the lines they're taking, it doesn't look like Colin Queen anywhere is doing anything different to what they're doing. So I'd love to speak to race control and see what they've got the penalty for, because you see the way everyone is abusing track limits. They're all pretty much doing the same thing. So,
well, actually, I think that's a fairly good point, because right after Colin Queen came out, when he's being harried by Nick Persing, we saw Nick way more off the track that we did, Colin, but then again, you're not looking at every car through every corner. You know, we have to leave it in the hands of the experts.
Of
but
course.
it's an observation.
I would just, if I was that team, I would be maybe going to the race direction and asking, you know, can we see exactly where and what caused the penalty? Because it seems like everyone's doing similar things. But yes, we can't see everything, so you know, we can't really comment on that. But it just seems very unfair. See, I really feel for the guys in the 104. They've done a great job, and I feel they really deserve the win.
Right into the final 3 minutes of the race. Just time for another interview in the pit lane, and Dakota's got Antoine Como.
Antoine, obviously very quickly, here's the situation. Nico is catching the guy in front of him. This is championship points on the line here. Is Nico going to be able to pass him? Because obviously the guys in TR3, they're feeling the pressure.
Yeah, I'm sure they are, but knowing how Nico drives, I think he's going to pass just about everyone that's in front of him. And I try to do the best I can to keep the car in a good position and bring it back in one piece, and now he's just doing what he's been doing for 20 years.
Obviously 3 seconds to take out of a lap is a lot, so there's only about 3 or 2 more laps to go. So let's do a little bit of math. It's going to be really tight, isn't it?
Yeah, it's super tight, but he's done more amazing things before, so more to come from him, I hope.
Very confident. Let's get back to the race.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dakota. So there we are. The end is almost upon us. That was the thoughts of Antoine Como, who's sharing with Nico Jamin, who, yes, he has been doing things for a very long time as a professional racing driver. There he is, all over the tail of Tadeusz Karlinskas. You do feel that the hunter and the hunted will be about to swap position.
Will that affect the championship? Because I thought we said the gap at the moment was 1 point. Now, if our...
You're good at maths. You got it.
Car 111 loses the place, that could well put them out of the lead of the championship.
It does. They were sitting there just protecting their lead. They were able to drop from the lead of the Pro-Am class. They were happy in second, but the pace that has come gaining 0.7 of a second a lap. That was Nico Jamin. He's moved ahead of Tadeusz Karlinskas up to 8th place overall, but more importantly, up to 2nd in Pro-Am. And Jason Hart and Conrad Geiss, they are leading this class, and they came into this race, the final race of 12 of the season, 5 points behind, and they'll take 15 points for a win. And unless Tadeusz Karlinskas can get back ahead of Nico Jamin, who is already pulling away, so he can't, that means, having led the championship, coming into the final round, they are going to go away with 2nd place in the Pro-Am standings.
It's just whether Nico Jamin can make up that 2 seconds on the car 167. It's probably unlikely, as it is the final lap. But yeah, how unfortunate. It just shows you every point throughout a championship is so crucial, because you can come into the last race and lose it essentially on the last lap.
Yeah, entirely so. And for Antoine Como, that will be really not the thing he was wanting at the final round, but nothing can be taken away from the pace of Jason Hart, the car he shares with Conrad Geiss. Still saying Jason isn't in the car, Conrad is. Conrad started the car. Maybe something's happened and Conrad's had to do the whole race.
It does say driver ID check on our little...
oh, yeah, good, okay.
Display board, so yeah, probably just haven't... In the car, you have a dial where you can change the driver ID. So obviously in endurance racing, when you've got 3 or 4 drivers, you know who's in the car.
Right, this is the final lap, and unfortunately for our race leader, Colin Queen, the gap's come down a little bit, but he needed to get more than 5 seconds clear. He's got a 5-second time penalty to be added at the end for exceeding track limits, unless some more penalties come the way of Nick Persing, and he's just got one more, and you get a final warning. I think he's got it under control. But you know, these things, I said they can happen right to the end. Here we are halfway around the final lap. In fact, way further around the final lap, because this is the final corner of the 2025 Lamborghini Super Trofeo North America. And Colin Queen will take a first win, but it will be taken away from him. He has 5 seconds to come off his score. That means Nick Persing will come through. He finished 2.4 seconds down in 2nd place with his teammate Danny Formal, this year's champion, tucked in behind him. But that 5-second penalty will put him into the lead, Danny Formal into 2nd, and back into 3rd place, because no one else was even near them, will go Colin Queen. Still a great result for Colin Queen and Enzo Garacci, but really unfortunate there at track limits. But for Nick Persing, that's his 3rd win of the season. Such is the gap. We're waiting for Keon Tandon to come through. He's in 4th place, but he was 20-something seconds behind. The first 3 home and hosed, and then a whole gaggle of cars come across the line. And Ernie Francis, sorry, not Keon Tandon, Ernie Francis getting to the end there in car 128. Jason Hart wins the Pro-Am class, and That means the title at this, the final race of the season. So it really did go all the way. And right on the final lap, suddenly Jason Hart gets his name on the screen. It wasn't Conrad Geis doing the race solo. Nico Germain coming through in second place in cars. And Tadas Karlinskas, by falling back to third, means they lose the Pro-Am title battle right at the end. Now, who's going to come through? Lindsay Brewer crosses the finish line to take victory in the AM class, but Glenn McGee did get ahead of Dean Noyes to go up into second place, and it means that he and his teammate Graham Doyle have squeaked the championship in the AM class. We had two classes settled before we started this, the final round. In fact, the Lamborghini Cup class, which will go to Rocky Baldock again today, had already been settled because Nick Grote didn't even need to make the journey here. He'd already got the battle, won the title in the bag. But it's great that so many things went right down to the final couple of laps at the last race of the season.
Having said that, look, car 111 actually got a 5-second penalty for an incident. So actually, whether they got passed by Nico Germain or not, probably in the end it didn't matter. Other than for pride.
Other than for pride, yeah. So it's actually a luxury position to be in. So in that race, well, it was a masterclass from Wayne Taylor Racing, but you have to say, for Ansa Motorsport, they really showed their hand as well. Colin Queen and Enzo Garacci, who did that stunning first stint in the race. But third win of the season for this man, for Nick Persing, car number 108, Wayne Taylor Racing. Got the job done, and it was a race of really interpretation of how to run your tyre pressures. Do you start hard and get the heat into your tyres? Do you start soft and save those tyres a little bit for later in the race? And certainly Colin Queen looks like he had some good tyres underneath him, so Enzo Garacci did a very good job.
Yeah, I'd certainly say Nick Persing did the optimal race for a solo driver starting on pole, to sort of go aggressive at the start to try and eke out that gap. Whereas obviously the guys in the 104 went a little bit more conservative to come on strong later on, which they did.
One thing you learn in racing is never write down the results just as the cars cross the line, because then time penalties get added. So car number 128 suddenly fell from 5th down to 7th place, and that means Elias de Tour and Earl Bamber gained another position, so that will clinch their second place in the pro title race. Of course, that title battle was won yesterday by Hampus Eriksson, Danny Formal. Right, there we are. Information of those final penalties coming through. Maybe they're not the final penalties. But really, the day belongs to Wayne Taylor Racing. And equally, Colin Queen, they tried the hardest. There's Enzo Garacci talking to him. And interesting. A little talk about how many track limit violations. But the job was done. And unfortunately, they fell down to third place overall at the end.
But they can take confidence that they won the race on track, and they both did a great stint and a perfect race. And it just shows you, yesterday Danny Formal and Hampus Eriksson won the race by, I think, was it 10 seconds in the end? So it just shows you how track position at turn 1 makes all the difference.
Nick Persing's already taken the cork out of his own personal bottle. He, of course, had the podium ceremony to come. We'll hear his thoughts, but he had to really work hard. Really excellent start from him, and you can see what that win in the final race meant to him.
You can always tell when it's an American, even if you shut your eyes and you listen, you know when it's an American race, because they're always so enthusiastic. It's great to see.
Yeah, they're good for the camera, even if the camera isn't there. But, you know, that's what we love to see. Motor racing, emotion has a role to play. Not so much when you're in the car, of course, that would be a good thing. Keep it cool, keep it calm. But when you get out, it is, as I say, like the cork coming out of the bottle. Rocky Baldock, another win there, so we'll see him up on the podium. And let's head down with Dakota with our race winner, Nick Persing.
Nick, yeah, have some water real quick. You absolutely deserve it. Congratulations. First place in the race. I mean, did you know that Colin had a penalty and you would end up first?
Yeah.
Here's Colin there. Look, congratulating him.
Yeah, I did. The team fed me the information. I think we had pace anyways, but we got a little mixed up with some lap traffic. So that kind of put me in a weird position where I was just having to maintain the gap. I knew he had a penalty. I was more so worried about also trying to tow Danny along with me, right? I don't want to leave him out of P2. So I was pushing as hard as I possibly can. Running solo in these cars is not easy, but big thanks to Wayne Taylor Racing. The car was phenomenal the entire race. We had so much pace. I mean, I think I pulled like a 3-second gap at the beginning and just tried to maintain from there. They got me from the pit stop, and yeah, we just went to work, got it.
Congratulations, Nick. A fantastic race, third win of the season. Guys, that was Nick Persing, and he could potentially looking for a teammate next year.
Yeah, call me. Or DM me on Instagram, something like that.
Congrats, Nick.
Thank you.
I'm sure his prices are absolutely reasonable. But yeah, you never know. People will be watching this and going, you know, I quite fancy. You know, I could do the North American Series next year. I could even do the Asian or the European. You can race anywhere in the world in the Lamborghini Super Trofeo. And then you have this unique thing gathering for the World Finals. Your final round is where the World Finals will be, and they follow on the last 2 days of this 5-day meeting. A lot of track time. These cars look good, sound even better, and they race well.
They certainly do. They're absolutely brilliant race car.
It's just a fantastic thing to do. Let's go and speak to two drivers who are probably bubbling because they've just won the ProAm title battle. It's Jason Hart and Conrad Guys.
Congratulations, guys. You're absolutely bubbling. I mean, it almost came right down to the wire there. Jason, what were you thinking in the car in those last few moments?
So I had no radio, so I was just trying to navigate to in front and behind, but the biggest thing in my head was Conrad had a massive opening stint, and I had to respect it. I had to give it everything I had, which is what you saw.
Conrad, as said by your teammate, a massive opening stint from you. Did you learn a lot this season? Are you proud to be in first place in Pro-Am?
I did. Couldn't have a better coach, better team. All my thanks goes out to this guy. He's been with me since I started racing last year, and again, mega. So very blessed to be here.
Engaged.
And a lot of hardware to take home. Do you have room in all your luggage for that?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, of course.
I'll stuff it in somewhere.
Right.
You will. Yeah, in his pocket. There you go. Congratulations, guys. A mega effort this season. Thank you.
Well, that's so interesting, isn't it? Conrad Guys, his first season of racing, and he's, since he started last year, his first full season, and he gets a title. That shows he's learned, and he's learned quickly.
Yeah, I think that's the thing now with the amateur drivers. As you see, obviously he's quite young. Generally in the past, a gentleman driver was, 50 plus, successful businessman. Maybe, no generalising, but a little bit overweight. Whereas now you've got these young guys that clearly take their fitness and racing super seriously. They've got the money to go and develop. They want to learn. They listen to their coach. And, you see after one full year or, a year and a half, he's now taken a title at such a high level.
But you'll have done driver coaching, I'm sure. And it's the ability of someone to listen, but it's also for you to temper what you're telling the driver in a way they might take it. But let's take a look after that race at the end with the driver. That's the Pro-Am title battle being won by Conrad Guys and Jason Hart. But at the end of the race, Nick Persing, victory by 0.6 of a second from his Wayne Taylor Racing teammates, Danny Famal and Hampus Eriksson. First across the finish line, though, was Colin Queen, sharing with Enzo Garacci, but a 5-second penalty. Well, they clawed back half of it, but they didn't take that win they were seeking to end their season. But a really strong run for Ansa Motorsport. Almaray, Kuan Tandon, having just a fantastic meeting, 4th place for them. But in 5th place and taking the Pro-Am title with it, Jason Hart and Conrad Guys. And winning the AM class, Lindsay Brewer and Jem Hepworth gave it their best shot, but 2nd place in class for Glenn McGee and Graham Doyle was enough for them to just be sure of the AM title. Victory in the Lamborghini Cup class, 2 days running, Rocky Baldock, so a Canadian during a great race. And all but 2 of the cars got to the finish, and Garrett Adams was the first to exit, but he'll be back, I'm sure, in the World Finals. So that's it from the 2025 Lamborghini Super Trofeo AO North America, except for one thing, the podium. And we're going to see a lot of very, very happy and satisfied faces up on the podium. I think for Enzo Garacci, who's been there and done it in these cars, and for Colin Queen, there'll be a little bit of frustration. But what they did, they showed they are absolutely on the ultimate pace. And that's something at least to put into your mind.
Yeah, they can take that confidence with them into the World Finals, tomorrow. It's really disappointing to lose a race in such a way, but you'd rather win a race on track, know you've got the pace, than to not have the pace at all.
Now, just going to see some lovely super slow-mos, these stunning Huracan Super Trofeo cars. It's a tight, twisty circuit here, but then there's a really, really fast back section. A lot of it, Jack, is how you use the curbing here.
Yeah, certainly. The runoff and curbing, really change the dynamic of the track. And even the angle at which you cut the curbing and how it just allows you to open the track up, get on the power earlier, which again makes it more difficult for people to pass you.
Yeah, and it's also how you use your tyres. And we saw people going a little hard too soon, but the main thing today was getting heat in the tyres. It was very cool, you know, probably about 40, 50 degrees Fahrenheit cooler track temperature than they're normally racing on. So again, that's a little chip in the brain the drivers have to secure. Push too hard too soon, you'll be running off, and then you get those things called track limit problems, and you start getting warnings, and eventually after the warnings you get your final warning and then the penalty. And unfortunately, that's what cost Colin Queen and Enzo Garacci race victory, and it therefore handed it to the cars in second and third place as Wayne Taylor Racing came through. But drivers will have learnt a lot, and for many of them, they'll be taking part in the World Finals here at Misano on Saturday and Sunday. They've had a lot of track time. It's been some great racing today. But for Nick Persing, he did it all, did it solo. Is he looking for a teammate for next year? We don't know, but he said he's available for DMs.
Yeah, I'm sure his Instagram DMs will be popping off, as they say. You know, it's tough raising the budget to, you know, run one of these cars on your own. You know, suddenly if you've got someone to share with, the budget is cut in half, maybe means you can do more testing and get even faster.
So many ingredients. It's not just about driving fast, it's about keeping the life in your tyres. It's about keeping away from your opposition. We had a little bit of a clash here or there, but a great event, and it's very early on a Friday morning. Seems a strange time to have drivers going on the podium, but they started the race at 9:15, and there are some happy faces there, including Lindsay Brewer and Jem Hepworth, who managed to really push the AM title battle and came up just short. But a class victory for them. Well, that's a very good conclusion to their season. They already had one earlier in the year, but you can see how much fun people have as well, and the bonhomie between all the drivers.
Yeah, it's always a lovely place to be. The behind the podium chats with all the other, you know, successful people, you sharing in that amazing moment together.
Right, the Lamborghini Cup goes first. Ray Sheehy coming out in third place. Second place, car number 186. That's John Hirschberg.
Is ready to get on the second step of the podium.
So out he comes, and we're waiting for the winner for the second race running. Rocky Baldock coming out. He's very much enjoyed this meeting. You can be sure he's going to be celebrating after this one. And he came very close to Lamborghini Cup title.
To the drivers, and we are ready with
and so that's the victory in class, the second day running in the Lamborghini Cup for the Rafa Racing team, who are spreading their wings with every passing year. And Rocky will be taking his trophy in a minute, but these very attractive trophies you win with the Lamborghini Super Trofeo, small enough to fit in a suitcase. So if you gather loads, that's fine.
Certainly, they're very ergonomic.
Rocky Baldock in winning this race in Misano.
So he knows where his friends are, knows where the team are, knows where the camera is, so he's learning as he goes. But on the top step, joy unbounded, because they know what comes very soon indeed.
Give the prize to the winner for Rafa Racing Team, Rocky Baldock.
So there you have it for the winning racing team. Trophy from Hankook Tyre as well, and then it's all the time to get them on the top step of the podium. Doing this effectively in reverse order: Lamborghini Cup, then AM, then Pro-Am, and then the outright victory in the Pro class. I've never come across such well-instructed podium ceremonies. They're absolutely drivers in no doubt, and for these drivers, they've actually had a lot of success this season, so they know what they're doing. Is it too early in the day for a bit of fizz? Not in the world of Rocky Baldock.
Certainly not. In the US, it's early morning, so I'm sure if you were there, you might even still be out partying.
I think if you're in California, it's just going past midnight, so that's absolutely fine. So here we are, victory for the Rafa Racing team. 3 cars came out to play in Lamborghini Cup, and 2 days running, it's this one, car number 199. But at the end, just 3 points short of Nick Grote, who did the championship, had it in the bag at the previous round, decided not to come to this event. He thought, I've already got the title, what's the risk? But Rocky Baldock, he knew he couldn't overhaul him, but he did all he could to move up at the end of the season, and move up he did into second place, and confirming that second place. Now we're looking to the AM class, and it's car 130. Dean Knowles held second place for quite a while, the Canadian racer, but in the end he couldn't resist the charge from Wayne Taylor Racing's Glenn McGee, who joined Graham Doyle and overhauled him. Just waiting for Doyle and McGee literally running onto the podium there, obviously chatting too much behind, but to the top step, well, it's going to go for the second time this season to Jem Hepworth and Lindsay Brewer, again from the Rafa Racing team.
On the main step of the podium. Now we are ready to listen to the United States national anthem. And now we are ready with Mr. Eric Skisman.
So this is the AM class podium, and the crew on the left-hand side, second place for Graham Doyle and Glenn McGee was just enough, but certainly smiles around from Dean Noyles there with his third place. He'll be very pleased with that. Super tight in points, as you would like it to be. For Graham Doyle closest to camera, and Glenn McGee just moving up into second place. We thought with a few laps to go they were in third, they were in peril, and the championship was going to go to the girls on the top step, but Lindsay Brewer and Jem Hepworth, well, all they could do was win the class. They did that. Brilliant start from Jem Hepworth, gained 2 or 3 positions and 2 or 3 class positions at the very run down to the first corner before turn 3. The work was done, but they had to complete it, and Lindsay Brewer got in, was very cool, calm and collected, had the buffer of a car from another class between them and the chasing opposition, but you know, high hopes, and certainly in the case of Jem Hepworth, not a lot of racing on the clock, but providing, you know, some really good form. And for Lindsay Brewer, crossing over from single-seaters this year, seems to have found a very happy home in Lamborghini Super Trofeo.
Certainly, they had an absolutely fantastic race. They did exactly what they said about on the grid. But they came in as the outsider in the championship, and unfortunately when you're in that position you're relying on other people having a bad day, and Glenn McGee and Graham Doyle had a great day.
They did. It's all down to small margins, but very happy podium there for the AM finishers. The top 2 crews in reverse order there, the crew that finished second in the championship on the top step, and there they are. They've done that before, I think.
Yeah, I think so. It's all right, they've got enough time to recover before the racing starts for the World Finals.
Yes, actually, getting the first race on the Friday is not a bad thing at all. Pop down to the Adriatic coast, have lunch. Actually, most of the places are now closed. We're sort of out of season, but there we are, the end of the season. 4 points clear for the crew that came second today. It was enough, but it was important for Glenn McGee to get that final move. As it was, I think they would have still just been champion had they finished third. But Graham Doyle, Glenn McGee just winning the title in the AM class from Lindsay Brewer and Jem Hepworth, and tucked in behind David Starb, who just got caught out at the start and fell down the order somewhat today. But again, fantastic to get to the 12th race out of 12 in the season and have a 3-way class title battle. And for them, what happens at the very front of the race is slightly irrelevant. It's your own class in this 4-class championship. Now we're moving up to the ProAm class. 3rd place overall, MLC Motorsport, Tadas Karlinskas and Darius Trinker, and they will be looking sad because that title, they came here leading the title battle in ProAm, slipped through their fingers, and Tadas Karlinskas will be, I think the term is gutted. 2nd place in class today, Antoine Comeau and Nico Jamin, the experienced Frenchman, really helping there. But on to the top step, car number 167 from TR3 Racing, Jason Hart and Conrad Geis. That's Conrad with the beard.
And Mr. Eric Skisman is ready with the bronze trophies for the 3rd qualified in this race, Tadas Karlinskas.
So, preparation is everything in motor racing, and you can see at the top step, they're nobody's fools. They're getting ready for a real explosion of champagne, and you really have to feel for Tadas Karlinskas and Darius Trinker. Their shoulders are down on the right, but very short racing history, and to be going to the final race of a championship with the championship lead in a Pro-Am class of a series like the Super Trofeo, I think they will eventually stand back and go, you know what, we did well, but right now, how can they not feel like a balloon that's had the air let out of it?
Yeah, I myself have lost several championships at the last round, and when you've fought hard all year and led for a portion of the year, to be honest, it sucks. But they can go away, debrief, see what they can do better, and come back and have another go next year.
Well, in my very limited experience, I lost the championship at the first round. There you go. Right, Conrad Gase, Jason Hart on the top step of the podium, Antoine Como and Nico Jamin on the left, and good to see the bubbly is being sprayed from the Lithuanian duo on the right-hand side. They led until the final race of this 12-race championship, but the champions in Pro-Am for Lamborghini North America this year in the Super Trofeo Series, Jason Hart and Conrad Gase, they pushed right to the end, and they got the job done. And look, there is confirmation. Victory by just 1 point at the end of 12 rounds. Next to nothing, but it was just enough. But losing second place, well, that really hurt. And falling from the lead of the championship because they lost that second place in this race in their class eventually cost Tadas Galinskas and Darius Trinka. But full marks to Conrad Gase, young in years, young in racing experience, but already a title in the bank.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, what's next for him? Does he do this again, depending on his budget? Does he step up to something like IMSA? You know, the possibilities are kind of endless.
They are, and actually racing cars with roofs, the world is your oyster, with GT3 becoming a global formula. So many things you can do, but I would suggest another season in the Super Trofeo would be the ideal element in there. So third place in the race day, first to the finish line. You have to feel a little bit for Colin Quinn and Enzo Garacci. They did all they could, but track limits violation, one too many, 5-second penalty, and it dropped behind Danny Formal and Hampus Eriksson, who won the title yesterday. Today was just a run around for them. They finished third on the track, awarded second overall, second on the track, but with no penalties. Nick Persing, yesterday was a horror story for him. He ended up way outside the top 10 after penalties, but today he got it all right. And you can't blame his teammate because he doesn't have one. So, cap back on. This year's champions, second place for them. So, a sort of wry smile on their face. But for Colin Quinn and Enzo Garacci, particularly Colin Quinn, still young in experience, it got taken away from him, but the speed was there, and he's got to hold that in his mind when he goes into the world final. And certainly his form and his driving looked exemplary today, but unfortunately pinged for track limit excess. That cost him victory. But Nick Persing ain't complaining. Up goes the trophy. Third win for him this year. That's 3 out of 12. That's a good batting average. 7 wins to his Wayne Taylor Racing teammate. Really left very little for anybody else to get their teeth into.
Yeah, certainly.
Giving the trophy to the staff of Wayne Taylor Racing.
There it is, Wayne Taylor Racing. We heard yesterday it was their 100th win. I hadn't had the chance to go and toss up everything they've done. Obviously not all of the Lamborghini Super Trofeo. I mean, Wayne Taylor, hugely successful sports car racer, particularly once he went stateside, but he's formed such a strong team. They're not allowed to leave the podium yet.
Clearly, I jinxed it yesterday when I said the car 101 would get the 101st win for Wayne Taylor, so I can only apologise to those guys on the second step of the podium.
Public apologies are always accepted, Jack. Public humiliation, less good to live with. But these drivers all know they're going to be competing again when we get to the weekend here at Misano, because it's the World Finals. 2 days of racing. They've got the track experience. I'll tell you what, I looked at the weather map. There may be a little band of rain moving through for the next few days. But you take this autumn sunshine, that's what we've got today, or the fall sunshine for people competing in the North American Super Trofeo Series. But today belonged to Nick Persing. He ran solo, which is a tiring thing to do. 50 minutes. But at the end, the title was already in the bag for his teammates, Hampus Eriksson and Danny Formal. Will Bamber and Elias Tator did hold on to second place in the championship ahead of Nick Persing, but Elias was spun around at the first corner. He fought his way, along with Will Bamber, back up to the sharp end of the field, but already the title battle had been won by the Swede and the Costa Rican, Hampus Eriksson and Danny Formal. Fantastically strong season for them, and that's 3 Lamborghini Super Trofeo North America titles out of the last 4 years for Danny Formal. Will he move aside and let other people have a go?
Depends if Wayne Taylor can find anyone else to jump in the car.
Yeah, but you know, you need a gold standard in any championship, and it's the ones you pitch yourself against, but he has been exemplary this year, as shown by the 7 wins. So, an aerial shot high above the Misano circuit. You can almost see through the haze the Adriatic coast on the top left-hand corner of the image. But let's take a look back to the highlights of this race. Leading away from pole position, Nick Persing sort of backed the field up, then shot it down to the first corner. Second place, the white and red car for Mansa Motorsports. That was Enzo Garacci. There, unfortunately, was the spin for Elias de la Tour. Just got too close to Hampus Eriksson, who'd been slightly delayed at the start. A few others getting scattered in his wake behind. David Starr, 148, lost a bit of ground, and Jem Hepworth moved straight into the lead of the AM class. Needed to be there, because needed to win the race in her class to see if she and Lindsay Brewer could take the title. A spin for Al Morey out of 4th place. That cost him, but certainly fought back and nearly got on the podium come the end of the race. But really was a story that this driver, 108, Nick Persing, streaking clear. He got 3 and a bit seconds clear, but no more. He held it back, but he knew he was going solo. Hampus Eriksson out, Danny Formal in, champions yesterday, but they're going to see if they could get onto the podium again today. It was always very likely they'd do that. In the AM class, Tadas Kalinskas took over from Darius Trinker, but he had no answer to the pace of Jason Hart. Sharing with Conrad, guys, Jason around the outside, into the lead in the Pro-Am class. Not just on the track, but in the race as well. And then some fantastic battling down into the hairpin at turn 14. This was the moment where Tadas Kalinskas could not resist the tide. And the tide was Nico Jamin moving past to push him down to 3rd in class. Up front, though, Colin Queen did all he could, but unfortunately for him, the checkered flag beckoned. But he had a 5-second time penalty for track limit excess. And the 2 Wayne Taylor racing cars behind him, Nick Persing and chasing to the finish, Danny Formal, 2nd and 3rd on the track. But that penalty put them 1st and 2nd on the podium. For Colin Queen, that first win has just escaped him. You feel it's coming, and coming sometime very soon, perhaps in the World Finals. We'll wait and see. But for Nick Persing, well, it was a better than average Friday morning. A look at the joy of victory for him. 3rd win of the season, Rocky Bolduc, also a winner in the Lamborghini Cup class, but there on the top step, all on his own. Nick Persing waiting for instruction, and there, releasing all that emotion for Wayne Taylor Racing. And that is it until we get to the European race, which is coming up just a little bit later, the European finale, which will be kicking off here local time at 12:20. And for the North American Super Trofeo, that is it for 2025, but we still have the World Finals to come tomorrow and Sunday. It's goodbye from me, Bruce Jones, and from Jack Bartholomew.